Honestly speaking, I don't think Nigeria is ready for all this. Niger people, they don't already they talk, say, may Nigeria, may them try, may them think about themselves. They don't the same message when they tell Nigeria, say, Nigeria, make una fair watch, una hand, eat, una belly full before una call a neighbor. They say they have taken their decision. If things were not working for them, they have decided to make it work. What's in una problem self? Una wan come drop innocent Nigerians come put for this kind matter. I mean, because some of una children they do the military work. Wetin dey happen self? I bet Mona see the reason why they talk like this, because it's really strange that even the country you want to go on, is telling you that they don't need you. God forbid, Batty.
Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara has promised 850 troops.
Les chefs d'État ont marqué un accord.
This is an ecowas operation. It's not a Nigerian operation against Niger, or a Beni Nasset operation against Niger, because these two countries are Niger's neighbors. At the same time, it's also not an Ivorian operation against our Nigerian brothers. But we are determined to reinstate President Bazoum in his role as democratically elected President of the Republic of Niger.
Pour que nos soldats et nos officiers.
But people in Niger are against any action by a regional force.
Cette intervention, il faut l'appeler par son nom, c'est une...
We must call this intervention what it is, an aggression against our people. No ecowas text authorizes heads of state to decide to send troops into a member country for any reason whatsoever. This is an act of aggression, and we call on the legitimate authorities, the members of the CNSP, to consider it an act of war, an act of aggression, and to respond with force. As citizens, we made a commitment a few days ago to mobilize and do our part in the national defense strategy. We are going to keep up this pressure and maintain our presence around the key points of the town of Niamey. Because the center of power, the one they want to restore, is Niamey. And we are going to build up a human shield before we reach the defense and security forces.
Constituer un bouclier humain avant d'atteindre les forces de défense et de sécurité.
doit comprendre.
ECOWAS needs to understand what the people of the various member countries expect of it. What is expected of ECOWAS is to attack the causes of coups d'état, not the consequences.
Les causes des coups d'État.
The United States says it's concerned about the well-being of the deposed Nigerian president, with Secretary of State Antony Blinken backing ECOWAS.
Deputy Secretary of State Nuland, as you know, was just in Niger. She had an opportunity to speak directly to the military leaders who've undertaken this action and made clear to them the imperative of restoring constitutional order, as well as everything that's at risk if they don't. As significantly, ECOWAS, the organization that brings together West African countries, is playing a lead role in making clear the imperative of the return to constitutional order, and we very much support ECOWAS's leadership and work on this.
But that's not a sentiment echoed in Niger's neighbour Nigeria, where many are calling for peace.
US has spent more than $1 billion fighting a war that does not concern it. So for them it is a loss of economic benefits. We should be looking at it from this angle. Nigeria should not waste its resources now going to fight in Niger. Rather, we should encourage them to employ diplomacy and solve their problem internally.
It should be by dialogue. Let's come to the round table and talk. Because of the human resources there, we don't want anything to happen. Nigeria and Niger, we are brothers, and we share the same border. And there is interrelationship between Nigeria and Nigeria. And even apart from that, we are Africa, we are in the same continent. We should not be like others continents that did not see their brother as their brother. Nigerians are our brother, and we should be our brother's keeper.
Before the coup, Niger was an important Western ally in the fight against insurgency, and it's a huge uranium producer. But with the country's new leaders seemingly defiant in the face of growing ultimatums, the future of the nation is uncertain, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Faith Orr, Arise News.
Let's bring in Paul Ejime. He's a global affairs analyst and former war correspondent and peace and security governance communications consultant. Paul, good to see you and thanks for your time. Now, reports at tomorrow's meeting of West African Army Chief is to prepare a plan for military action in Niger. Is that a move for war, as some in Niger are suggesting? Consultant Paul, good to see you and thanks for your time.
So I think ECOWAS is sounding both using what you may call carrot and stick, in the sense that since the heads of state have given the chiefs of defense staff the marching orders, I think they have to follow up and then hold their meeting and get ready for war if it becomes necessary. I think that is what is there. But in reality, actually, mobilizing troops will take a couple of weeks. That is one. And then in this case, perhaps there will also be approval from the UN, UN Security Council. So there's a lot. It is not just something you call troops and then they gather and then you begin to go on a war mission or an invasion. So that is why I think ECOWAS is taking it, trying to maintain what you call less speed, but trying not to become precipitate in the action, because it's a risky option. Everyone understands that. So given the diverse opinion and opposition that you are having to it, even Nigerian Senate, remember that the Senate will prefer a diplomatic solution. The ulama in Nigeria prepares a diplomatic solution. Nigerian Guild of Editors, concerned citizens, even in Niger themselves, people are calling for a diplomatic solution. There are those who are saying, well, this the junta has outplayed their hands. They have disgraced ECOWAS, and that is why you find this kind of, very tough stance. And at the same time to say, well, listen, we have 3 coups. Now this fourth one is one too many. So you have to stop it. But ECOWAS has to watch it so that it is not dragged into a war that will consume the region.
Well, anyway, now you're talking about the region. Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara in particular is talking tough. We heard in a Faith report there, he's prepared to send 850 troops and back it with appropriate funding. But it could be said he's guilty of hypocrisy here, given what happened when he assumed power in 2010.
Exactly. And then he is also somebody that is very close to France. And remember that France and the US, they have been very, what do I call it, anxious and then concerned about this. So is Ouattara, I hope he's not speaking for the French, because if he is, he will only be muddying up the waters. Let ECOWAS be the lead here. Like you said, his credentials are not that immaculate to be able to be pushing for what he's saying, because this is somebody who had tampered with the Constitution and then got a third term. And the third term syndrome is part of the problem that ECOWAS has, because after he did what he did in 2016 to get this third term in 2020, some other people tried it. Condé in Guinea, where there has been a coup, and then so many other people. Remember Senegal, a few weeks ago, there were killings before President Macky Sall rolled back on that. So some of these leaders are actually the problem that we have. Get me right, we cannot condone a military incursion. But at the same time, there have been what you call constitutional coups. You have what you call ballot box coups. You have mismanagement. You have corruption, and then you have human rights violation. And on top of that, these politicians are not delivering what you call the dividends of democracy. Look at hardship everywhere. They cannot. Can you imagine Niger produces uranium, which a prized resources. But what happens? 80% of the population, 26 million or so, they do not have a power supply. Meanwhile, France is using that uranium to power electricity supply for its own about 60% of its population. How can you reconcile that? So that is the world. We have to separate them. Of course, there might be some opportunistic move by some military adventurers like the coup leader, who is the head of presidential guard. Maybe he had a problem with his former post, and then they are trying to settle it. And then the former president, Isufu, is also there. Everybody pulling strings. But ECOWAS cannot be drawn into this internal crisis and then make it, externalize it to the point of causing war. I think the